Thank you for coming today, everyone. Today's in-depth training class, we're going to be talking about company entry and just how to create a new company from start to finish, and a couple of different options that you can modify when you're actually going through and entering a company record. So the main screen from Control, the easiest way to do a new company record is just to go up to the top bar where it says New, and then just pull New down and go to New Company. That will bring us to the New Company screen. The very first option that's going to ask you for is a company name. And one of the things that the system will do is if I go and enter in a company name, what I can do is I can click on the check name here to make sure that somebody hasn't already entered that company within the system. So after I enter in the company name, I can click on this and find out, oh, the company name already exists. I don't need to enter this company. So from here, I can just go up and say, type in a new company name, click on the check name again, and this one does exist. And you just keep, basically, you'll either find out that the company name exists, or when you enter in a company that doesn't exist, it will inform you that the company name is not found. After you have your company name decided, the next option is going to ask you, are you going to save this as an active company? Is it going to be a prospect? So all companies are going to default to a prospect within the system, which means this is a company that hasn't done any orders with you yet, and that's how the company will be saved. You can also save a company as a vendor at the same time as you're creating it. So if this company is not only a company that orders from you, but also a company that you order from, you can mark them as a vendor in addition to being a prospect at the same time. Alternatively, if you wanted to just kind of put this company in the system as more of like a personal company that you don't really do orders for, but you have it within the system so that you can search on it and have it within the system, you can click on the personal box here as well. Once you've decided the checkboxes that need to go there, we're going to start off on the top line here on the company tab. The first question is this company a subsidiary of another company? So does this company report to another company? Are their sales kind of tracked under another company's name? Are they really a portion of another company that's already in your system? If that's the case, you can click on the magnifying glass here and go through and select the company that they are a subsidiary of. I can also put in a department location of what they are for what that company is a subsidiary of. I can put a web address, so I can put the company's website here just so I have reference to that. And then the important part is going to be whenever I get over to here with the salesperson. This is what the system will use to track the sales of this particular person. Every order that goes through for this particular company will always default to this company's primary salesperson and secondary salesperson if that's filled in as well. So these fields are when a salesperson does a job, it will start and default their information to this. So that needs to be set correctly. The last set of options within this top bar here are industry, origin, and region. The main feature of these particular options is just for enhanced searching on these particular company records. So what I can do is I can specify an industry for this particular company. So I can pull this option down and I'll have a list of existing industries. I can pick an industry that's already in the list, or if the industry I'm looking for doesn't exist, I can click on the New button, and that will give me the option to type in a new industry name. That same option exists for the origin. So the industry is, what type of business this particular company is. So the next option is the origin. So how did this company find out about you? Was it, did they walk in? Did they find you through the Yellow Pages? Did they find you through Google? How did this company find out about you? And again, if the origin that you're looking for doesn't exist, you can just click on New and add a new origin to that list. The last option on here is region, and this can be used for time zone. You can actually go through and modify the region list to be just regions within the country. The region list is just is an option that you can use to kind of flag where that company is found. And all these fields, they aren't really used within the system for when you go when you go to create an estimate or an order, but you can use these when searching the companies later to find out, I want to see all companies that are in the banking industry. I want to see all companies that found out about us through Google. So you can use that later to find out just how many companies you have in the system that are either found through a specific method, that are part of a specific industry. You can use that later to do some marketing using these particular options. The next section that's really important for entering in a company is going to be the address field. Most of it is straightforward. It starts you off on the billing address, so I just tell it the address here. And then what's going to happen, once I have the address entered, if I click on the shipping here, I can go and select the shipping address. What the system will do is it will automatically default the shipping to be the same as the billing address. But if this company has a different shipping address that you need to ship their stuff to, you can click on the new company shipping address, and that gives you the same editable fields where you can now specify a separate shipping address from the billing address for this particular company. In addition to having the billing and shipping, some companies have some extra addresses that you would need to store just because maybe they have a third location, maybe they have a separate sales office, maybe they just have a specific address that you want to be able to pull and reference whenever you're talking to this company. What you can do is click on the new button here in this address section. It's going to ask you for the name of the new address. And what it does is it adds a new tab for the address that you added. So now I could have a brand new address that's not only part of the billing and the shipping, but also an extra address that I can use for being able to pull up within the system as well. In addition to the address, I can also specify the phone number down here. And I can also change it from, instead of office phone, maybe this is the customer's, maybe they would rather have somebody's cell phone as kind of like the main phone number. You can pull the drop down here next to the phone number and select what type of phone this is. And then the same thing for the fax. The next option that we're going to be looking at is over here. This is where we specify the tax information for this particular customer. So we first specify, is this particular company taxed within, in this case here, Baton Rouge? And then I have a listing of all my different tax classes. These should be in the system from your from initial setup within the system. So if you do need to still enter in your tax classes, you can refer to the setup steps, and that will walk you through the process needed to add the new tax classes to the system. If the company is considered taxable within Baton Rouge, but they are a tax-exempt company, after you select the tax class, you now have the option here to specify the tax-exempt status. So if it's a tax-exempt company, what I can do is click on the ellipse next to here and specify them as tax-exempt in all states. The last thing that we want to look at on this particular screen is going to be what we call the flags and the notes. Both of these are really similar in that this information is stored and specific to the company that I have selected, but both of them work in slightly different ways. The notes is information that I enter that I just want to be stored on this company's record. It doesn't really show up whenever I'm doing an order. It doesn't affect the system in any way, but this is just some important notes that I can type in about the company, whether it be maybe I just want to put a special request for how they do their pricing, or maybe I want to put in something that denotes when this company was created and any time I change a phone number. If I wanted to put any type of information that I don't really need to report on, the best place to put that is in the notes because that stays in the notes section. Whereas the next option, which is the flags, this works similar in that I can put the information here that I need to, but what the flag does is anytime I do a transaction, anytime I do anything with this particular company record, the flag will actually pop up and warn me whatever I put in this particular flag. So the flags is used for certain things like if you were not ever supposed to take a check from a customer, you could put that in the flag. If they have special email instructions that you need to follow whenever you do this company record, you would put that in a flag. So the flags, anytime that you do a new order, anytime you do a new estimate, that flag will pop up as soon as you select that company record. If you have a flag that you use all the time, you also have options over here to use a speed note. And basically what this is this is a note that is, once I double click on it, it adds that note to the note section that I have selected here. So what I can do is I can click on the add option here to add a new speed note, so I can fill out a note that we use all the time, so that way I have access to this note on other company records and I don't have to type it every time. I can just select it from the speed note section. That is all the important information on the Company tab. One thing to note is if you forget to fill out a field that is required within the system and you try to save a company record, it'll tell you that the system is unable to save because it's missing a certain bit of information. In this case here, I tried to save it, but I'm missing some information on the next tab that we're going to be going over. So if you ever forget a piece of information and you try to save, the system will inform you what you're missing, so that way you can go back into it and fill that information in so that you can then save the company successfully. So we're going to go over here to the Contact tab now, and that changes our screen up a bit. The Contact tab is where we go through to enter in the different people at the company that we actually would speak to. So in this case here, I'll go ahead and start off by saying that this is the main contact there. I can select a position from the list, so if the customer has a specific position, I can fill that in. If the position doesn't exist in the list, I can either click on the new edit option here to add a position in, or I can just type in the position here. I can put in this particular contact's birth date if I wanted to have that information to, reference that particular person whenever I'm talking to them. And I can also put in the person's email address. From here, the phone number will default from the company's phone number, but I can also have a specific phone number for this particular customer. If I have a specific extension that I want to reference for this person, I can just edit the phone number here, specify the extension. I can specify up to 3 phone numbers on this company record. So if they have a cell phone, I can select that from this list here and type in that particular customer's cell phone number. Also, the addresses will default from the company record as well, where I can go through here and specify an extra address. I can change the address, or I can add in new address that is specific to this contact. So not only do I have addresses on the company level, I can create specific addresses that are tied only to the contact that I have selected here. Most companies will have more than one person that you do business with. So what we can do is we can click on Add here to add a new contact. And this just gives me a new contact screen that I can now fill in more information about a new person that I talked to at this particular company. And I can add in as many contacts as I need to for this particular company. There are 2 contacts that are considered the most important though. And one person can be both of those contacts. If I select myself, I can see up here that there is a primary and a billing company flag. Each company can only have one of each, but the same person can be both. So in this case right now, I'm considered both the primary and the billing contacts. So anytime a statement gets sent out, it can go to the billing contact, whereas anytime an order goes through, it can set them as the primary contact that goes for that particular order. All I need to do to change that information is to select the contact that I want to change and click on the primary or the billing, and that will split out, leaving myself as the billing, but this new person here is selected as the primary. And if you try to select somebody else as the primary, what it will do is it will unselect it from the person that was previously selected as that particular type of contact, because I can only have one at any given time. And that's most of the information that's needed for going through and entering in the contacts within the system. You can enter in as many contacts as you need, and that will make it much easier to, whenever you're entering in jobs, for the job to go to the correct order. The next tab that we're going to be looking at is the Financial tab. There isn't much information that needs to be entered on here. The main information that you'll see is, does the customer have a credit account, and what is their credit limit? You can also put their credit number in within the system to track that, but otherwise you get to specify this number, so when you're doing orders for the company, it will kind of let you know what the particular customer's credit limit is. And also, this is where you get to specify what the payment terms for that company is. Again, the payment terms are entered in within the accounting setup that was covered within the previous setup steps. So if you needed to add in new payment terms, you could please refer to the setup steps, and that will walk you through how to add in the new payment terms in the system if the terms that you're looking for do not exist. The last tab that we want to look at is the user-defined fields. This tab is mostly optional. Not everyone needs to use this, but essentially what user-defined fields are questions that can be answered, different fields of information that can be stored within the system that aren't covered by the main fields. So I can go through and create new UDFs. I can store this information within the system to have just something else to search on, just something else where I can store information within the system. So in this case here, I have things like FedEx numbers, the particular customer's information, what's the size of the company, what type of signs do they do, basic information that you can store. So UDFs can be completely changed up and used to store extra information for a company record if needed. It's not necessary, but it does allow you to have that extra information if you ever needed to refer to that on the company record. The last thing that we want to cover is going to be some extra options that you can choose whenever you're entering a company record. Because right now we've covered everything to save this company. So now that I'm done, I can click on Save, and I missed setting my primary contact. So I'll go back to my job and set my primary. And now I have saved my company record. What I can do though is if I go to Setup, System Setup, and I scroll all the way down on the left bar, there is a section for company information that's about halfway down, closer to the bottom. When you select that option, it gives you a couple different checkbox options that you can modify to change what's needed on the company setup. So if I edit this, I can have the option to show the company flag or not. So by default, it shows the company flag, but I can turn that option off. I can also have it so that way the system allows me to have more than one company name. So if I had the same company, but it's in more than one location, I can have that company name in more than once if I change the other information about that company. So I can click this option to allow myself to have more than one company with the same name. I can also require the industry and origin to be fields that have to be filled in. So by default, that information is just extra, but doesn't need to be filled in. But if I go to this screen here, I can make it so that way whenever somebody does a new company within the system, they have to fill out those fields. The next thing on here is going to be, we're going to jump down to where it says the default. What you can do is specify a different default salesperson. So every new company within the system will start off with this particular salesperson as the default. But I can pull this down and pick the default salesperson so that way when I do this company, this will be the salesperson that defaults as soon as I open up that company record. In addition to, I can specify how many salespeople do I have. Do I have just one salesperson I want to use? Or I can go up to even requiring up to 3 salespeople on a particular job or company record. And once I have all those options saved, I can go ahead and save that. So now that I've looked at this, I can require things like the origin and the industry to be saved and a couple other options in terms of defaulting a salesperson for a particular job. And that is all the options there is for creating a new company record.